Okay, wonderful. So we're heading into the next portion of our agenda, which is the fiscal year 26 Creative Communities panel recommendations. And we are first going to start with local arts and Jane and who from staff will pick up Karen's portion? Okay, perfect. All right, so Jane and Karen, if you want to report out the reports.
It was an excellent day, as those of you who have served as panelists or panel chair before understand. I do want to say to anybody who is new or newer to the Arts Board, to me, I feel like when you're serving as a panel chair, you really understand what the Arts Board is all about and really get a better idea. One of the things that we talked about, is sort of separate from what I'm going to announce today, is we want to try to figure out a way of making it accessible to board members to get, even if it's one line description of what the project is that is being discussed or recommended, rather than just the name of the organization. So what are these people doing, especially if it's happening in your backyard and you're not aware of it? We think that that would be helpful for board members. Not that we're going to suddenly say, no, I don't want that to happen, but at least we'll be a little bit better educated. We are recommending 25 of the applications for funding. This year had 3 fewer applications in phase 1, but the panel invited 5 more applications to phase 2 this year. And in the end, 25 applications are being recommended. All 30 were eligible for discussion. And at the end of the day, they set the floor, meaning the bottom ranking that they would go with at, where was it, 86.4. And so 5 of those organizations fell off and didn't, not being recommended for funding. A couple of the other things with the day, as always, a great panel, very invested in the process, learn a lot from how they evaluate. A couple of the things that they were interested in is the whole accessibility piece. And they feel like that needs to be more embedded rather than just check boxes on the applications, which frankly I don't see, so it's hard for me to really comment on it. But they had a really good discussion about the whole accessibility, whether they're going to have interpreters, whether it's more sensory type accessibility. They also thought it would be useful that if some of these grant applications are for the second year, which many of them are, what's new about this, and if that could be set apart so they immediately understand what's new and what they're asking for. Also that the letter of support, I understand right now it's preferred to get that at least from the partners in these grants, but they want to change that to being required because some didn't have what they thought would be kind of a no-brainer letter of support. So they also discussed the amount of work that the panelists have to do, and all of them kind of expressed surprise. And they thought it would be useful to get more tips and tricks from previous panelists, what makes the system work more easily. And I understand that there is a session to do some of that, but maybe to formalize it. And they thought that a past recording included in the orientation. I'm not sure if it's done now, and they thought it would be a good thing to include, or that it is a good thing and they should watch it. Because you know how it is. You give people a whole lot of resources, and how many of us take the time to look at it. So please fill in.
Beyond there, I don't know that I have much to add. I think the only other piece that Karen wanted to note was that, so there were 67 total creative community project grants that were submitted, but at one point there were at least probably 15 more in the queue that we were thinking could come in. Some of them, it was just capacity issues. They didn't end up submitting. Others, they were, you know, creation of presentation applicants that actually aren't eligible for creative communities. But, you know, it's basically up until midnight the day of that we find out how many will actually submit. And yeah, I think this number mostly aligns with the past couple of years. So I think that's it. And then we pulled up in alpha order on the one side, but then also with those 5 that you can see the award, no award at the bottom there. So
Mhm.
give that alpha order list a look for any conflicts.
Yes, and then we will go around and I ask you to, be slow as you give me your conflicts, Lashondra.
I've already provided my conflicts in advance.
I also wanna make sure that we know what we're doing here in the sense that in a normal year, and this is not normal. In a normal year, this list would have the award amount with it. Because of the biennial budget and because of what's coming on with the feds, these are award, no award, you know, and the basic motion is move to approve pending the state budget. And that's what we need to do today.
Do we need to re-vote on the actual award amounts then?
We have done that in the past, because I think the budget is going to flow to what's in each of these categories. So you're gonna vote on the budget, and then I think at that time you can determine whether you need to go and do the specific award amounts, but we have done that for past.
In each of the, motions, will they have to say, award pending state budget approval? Does that verbiage need to be included or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's exactly right.
Okay, so we are going to start with, you look at this. We're gonna start with, can I see John Potter for a second? John, any conflicts?
No conflicts.
Thank you. Now you can erase John. Sorry, John. All right, Matt.
No conflicts.
Your name?
No conflicts.
Lynn Ritchie, no conflicts.
Brian Delsey, no conflicts.
Jane Harry, no conflicts.
Bill, I'm gonna come to you.
Bill Mitchell, no conflicts.
John?
No conflicts.
Susan?
No conflicts.
All right,
Right.
Lashondra.
All by myself. So mine are, slowly as requested, Radio Milwaukee, Milwaukee Film, Girls Rock. That's it.
Thank you very much. All right. If I could have a motion to approve all of the grants, grant recommendations by the committee excluding Radio Milwaukee, Milwaukee Film and Girls Rock.
Pending budget
Yes,
approval,
pending budget.
I
approval.
would make that motion.
Ritchie, Ritchie second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Lashondra, for stepping up for.
It's like she knows what to do.
Just a little dance. Give him a step.
Okay, will somebody please make a motion to approve the grant recommendation pending budget for Radio Milwaukee, Milwaukee Film and Girls Rock?
Johnson?
Thank you, John.
Second.
All right, thank you, Susan. We have a motion and a second. And if I'm going too fast, throw something at me. Okay, wonderful. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Come on back. Lashondra.
Next list.
All right, we are now going to move on to the arts in education. And that is Lynn and Caitlin.
Sure. So there were three of the four were new. The first thing I want to say, when they were critiquing, I thought they did it very thoughtfully and very kindly. There were questions about the budget and how to integrate that into evaluation. They like when there was more detail, especially if using a local known person, making sure there was info in the bio. Because they might not be in that area and not know this person that's famous in that area. So they really wanted to make sure. Evaluation was talked about over and over and over. One person was really, really strong about it. And talking about surveys, when she was looking at one that had different language people coming in, were they sure that in the surveys, they had it in the different languages so those people would be represented? They liked the split screen, the smart and simple, the very positive response on that. And then the question about, again, going back to what was talked about by Jane, being new, it's like, what exactly is the art board looking for? What, you know, and I think that even if you've watched a video on how it really is, you have to do it. But they really helped each other too, didn't they? Yeah, so that's what I have.
Yeah, they were a great panel. We had, probably the night before, morning of, found out that the fifth would not be able to join, but the four panelists were fantastic, were thorough. You did a great job, Lynn. I think that, yeah, I think that's the bulk of the feedback. I'll call out Walker's Point as one of the, best practices that they've called out some of their, way that they're documenting, the survey work that they're doing and how they're capturing that on their website was one. Yeah, they were just a really thorough panel. They had enough concerns about, we had, 19 applicants invited on to phase two. There were significant enough concerns about those bottom three scoring applications that they did not recommend them for funding, but recommended 16 of the 19 for funding. It was an easy one.
It was.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
Is this, by the way, a place to flag the ever interest in having schools apply to this program?
Folk arts. Well,
For arts
I'm thinking
education.
schools of
Yeah,
music or
yeah,
dance.
yeah.
Yeah, we're always interested in getting more schools in the mix, and it kind of ebbs and flows year to year, but,
I just sort of put it out there for John,
yeah.
help us think about.
Yeah, whenever you do the, grant application, like posting, you can send that over, like whatever language you're using, you can send it over to me and I can go to listservs
Yeah,
through Chris, please send.
I was gonna say, we
Also-
sent it to Chris.
But also Chris and me, I also can do it with other vehicles we have, so
Okay, that's great. Thank
social
you.
media, all that stuff.
Great.
All right. All right, if you guys can all take a moment and just look at the list. If you're looking at your computer, it's page 19 of the PDF file. And I can see Mr. Potter.
No conflicts.
Thank you, John. All right, is everyone ready to go around? All right, Susan, we'll start with you this time.
No conflicts.
Thank you.
2 in a row. Wallach, no conflicts.
Thank you.
Hoffman, no conflicts.
Richie, no conflicts.
Kelsey, no conflicts.
Harry, no conflicts.
Bill?
Mitchell, no conflicts. 2 conflicts.
Thank you.
Johnson.
Okay, I'm ready.
Milwaukee Public Schools Foundation and Pecatana Educational Charitable Foundation.
Wait, you, that was way too. Foundation, the second one was?
Pecatana Educational Foundation.
You also founded that.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, LaShondra.
Milwaukee Public Schools Foundation. Walker's Point Center for the Arts. Betty Bryn Museum.
That was the Betty Bryn, okay?
Yes. Artworks for Milwaukee. Artists Working in Education.
All right, if we can please have a motion to approve all of these grants pending budgetary funding, et cetera. Excluding the Milwaukee Public School Foundation, the Pecatonica Educational Charitable Foundation, the Walker's Point Center for the Arts, the Betty Bryn Children's Museum, Artworks for Milwaukee, and Arts Working in Education. there a motion to approve all excluding those?
So moved.
Thank you, LaShonda.
Johnson, second.
Thank you, John. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. All right, if I can have LaShonda stay here.
That's to be.
All right,
candidate.
is there a motion to approve the grant request based on budget or for budget for Pecatonica Educational Charitable Foundation?
So moved.
Thank you, Karen. Is there a second?
Second.
Susan, thank you. Cliff? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, Chandra, if you want to step up?
Wait, did you say one? Did you say both for him? Cause he
No,
had
'cause
two.
they shared
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Wait a second.
You're good.
This part of the fun.
I know.
Yeah.
Wait till December and someone else has to do this. Okay, is there a motion to approve the grant recommendations for budgetary availability for the Milwaukee Public School Foundation? Walker's Point Center for the Arts.
No, just the Milwaukee MPS, because John can vote on it.
Oh, John, yes, I'm sorry. For Milwaukee Public School Foundation. Thank you for that. You bet. Is there a motion? Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thank you, Susan. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. John, come on back. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Is there a motion to approve the funding based on budgetary availability for the Walker's Point Center for the Arts, the Betty Brin Children's Museum, Artworks for Milwaukee, and Artists Working in Education?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Lynn.
Oh, seconded.
Thank you, Karen Ann. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, LaShonda. You're welcome back. All right, thank you all for that. I know. All right, we are now gonna get to the full cards, so yeah. All right, we are now going to move into the folk arts section of the Creative Communities panel, and bear with me as I get to there as I was on this panel. Okay, it was a wonderful committee. It was a very interesting, they were the most concise group of panelists in my time at the Arts Board I've ever heard. They shared what they needed to share, what they wanted to share. But they were all very brief, which was, I thought, very interesting. I will let Caitlin talk about the process, et cetera. But they did provide wonderful constructive feedback in a concise fashion. I think at times Caitlin and I were like panelists. If you have more to share, the organizations are going to be listening, and we're gonna share this if there's ways that they can improve or areas that you found really good that they can continue to use in grants, et cetera. And they remained concise. So they were very qualified, all of them.
Yeah.
It was interesting because there was a panelist who had suggested, you know, what happens after phase one and people drop out? We don't see necessarily, this group of panelists doesn't ever have a conversation about, wow, who dropped out? Because some may rank something higher, and then when they get to the next round and they haven't made it to that round. And I think some of that helped them. They just thought it was curious to better understand everyone's thinking as to who made it to the next round. The other thing was they wanted to see some of their original feedback that they had for the scoring, et cetera, that they had given in round one for round two, and Caitlin's gonna make sure that they have that available as they do that. I will just share this now and know that it continues into the next one with the apprenticeships is like smart, simple, didn't behave so smartly nor simply for some of the panelists, depending on the age of the technology they're using. So as we've worked really hard to remove barriers, especially in the apprenticeship side of, if you want to send us a video submission, if you want to handwrite your grant submission or you type yours, we will accept it, and meet you where you need to be met. From our panelists, we might need to find a way to make sure that, older laptops or laptops which someone may not be updating their software because they use it for very simple things, that it makes it easier. One panelist in particular had problems seeing any embedded video files included in Smart Simple. Therefore, they were doing their own research, which is something you don't necessarily want panelists doing. It should be based off of the materials that were provided.
Sure.
So I had brought up, a workaround, and I don't know if it's even possible, was like, can a Google Drive be shared where the applicants upload to the drive and then that drive is private and it's privately shared to the panelists, to their email address where they can log in to where we're sitting on a common platform in a sense. So that was just something that was brought up in that. Oh, this was the last one who had commented about reviewing Creative Communities project grants and individual apprenticeships, and why they were separated and why they weren't having the conversation all at once. And so Caitlin did a very good job in explaining that.
And then it was hard to transition, I think, for them from the organizational
Yeah.
applications to the individual. I mean, they did a great job, but
Yeah, they did
some of
it.
them struggled. more with
Yeah,
that.
so I'll kick it over to you if you have anything else.
Yeah, I think the work samples piece, I mean, I think part of that is, I wish that panelist had reached out to me about
100%.
the tech issue, because I could have helped resolve that. But I think stressing that in next year's orientation will be important.
And this was their first time
Yeah.
as a panelist ever.
Ever in any capacity, so, yeah, I think that.
And I
just
think they spend more of their time outdoors.
Yeah, than in front of their
Than they
computer,
do in front of a
Yeah.
computer.
for sure. So I think just calling that out in next year's orientation will be important. Like Brian said, they were concise, but it was they were prepared.
They were 100% prepared.
Yeah, and it was a good group. I think the phase 1 to phase 2, it's like, well, we don't have a conversation about those phase 1 ones, and part of it is to save them from meeting twice
Mhm.
in the same, month or two. So I think they understood that. I think that there were 10 in the mix initially, which is a lot for the folk arts project grants. One of them was ineligible off the bat because it was an international travel request, and I had reached out to them before the deadline to say, there's something else you could put forward that would be eligible, and didn't have any movement on that. So, and then there was one that just was not invited on based on their score. And then of those 8, 2 decided not to apply, just capacity issues, and 1 again was ineligible because it was an April one-day event, and projects can't begin until July 1st. So that was the 5 that they reviewed, and of those, they ultimately decided to recommend all of them, sort of with the caveat that the Oshkosh Public Museum, they had some really specific and helpful feedback that they wanted me to reach out to them about directly, just so they have that information. But that was their recommendation, 5 of the 5.
All right. John Potter, any conflicts?
No conflicts.
Thank you. Susan?
No conflicts.
Wallach, no conflicts?
I'm gonna say Oshkosh Public Museum. I just
think you
gotta
were
check
left
it
in
out.
there.
Yeah. I was afraid it was, I was.
Richie, no conflicts.
Kelsey, no conflicts.
Harry, no conflicts.
Chandra Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition.
Okay,
Mitchell, no conflicts. Johnson, no conflicts.
wonderful. All right. If I could have a motion for, the remaining, which is UW Oshkosh Department of Chicano and Latinx Studies, Bembe Drum and Dance, and UW Green Bay Humanities Department Viking House.
So moved.
And this is based on budget. Thank
Richie,
you very much.
second.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, motion carries. Karen Ann, did you?
Yes,
Out of the room for a moment.
All right.
Is there a motion to approve the grant, recommendation based on budgetary, capabilities for the Oshkosh Public Museum?
Johnson, so.
Thank you, John.
Seconded.
Oh, LaShondra, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Friend, if we didn't vote on, we didn't vote. We didn't vote on the first one. We just, you asked if there's any discussion, you said
Approved.
approved.
Sorry.
Good catch.
All right,
We'll do the other one.
we'll go back to the other one. No, I thank you. Stop me in the moment.
I was processing it. I'm like, wait, did I?
Karen, all those in favor say aye again, please.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. None opposed? All right, Karen Ann, come on back, and LaShondra, stay here. Okay. Will someone we have a motion and a second for the others. All those in favor,
Did we have one the first time?
did I ask for a motion?
Yes, yes, we got a
motion
motion.
and a second.
We just did-
From the original motion.
Let's just restate for the record who moved it.
LaShondra and Richie, made the
Thank you.
motion and seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. LaShondra, if you'll step out for a moment, please. Hard keeping this all in your mind. Okay, is there a motion to approve the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition?
So moved.
Thank you, Karen.
You bet.
Richie, second.
Thank you, Lynn. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. LaShondra, welcome back. All right, we are now going to jump to,
Yeah. Individual.
Yeah.
partnership.
now we're gonna go to the fiscal year 26 folk arts apprenticeships. Bear with me as I scroll back down to that section. This is the one where I'll wrestle any of you to try to always, I love this panel only because it helps me as an individual, so anybody else who wants to do this. It is so interesting to know all of the individual forms of arts being practiced in our state, but more than that, of how individuals are trying to ensure that that form is passed on and moves forward in the community. I said this, I didn't do it last time, but the time before I had done this, it's really interesting to watch some of the changes taking place, and seeing more diverse, folk arts, being presented. It used to be a lot of Rose Molly, and there was one this year, only one. So it's interesting to see the diversity of this. Once again, the panel was,
Can I take a second? to
yeah,
say-
please do.
I forgot to say thank you to Lynn for stepping up as the backup to the backup on that panel. And for Brian for stepping in as the backup on the folk arts panel. That has happened
cool.
some years, but you all were fantastic.
Yeah, they were, once again, very concise in their conversation on these. And all the ones I only had to use the 2-minute warning twice in the entire day, which I'm used to having to go to, no, really, to, and trying to get them down, but, we never hit the 10-minute discussion point. But again, they were exceptionally well prepared. They had real difficult time setting the floor on this one. And you can see if you're looking at the board or if you're looking at page 28, you can see that there was a natural floor. They asked in the past, how many projects have been awarded? And Caitlin gave them, it's typically been like X amount we're able to award, which would have brought it to a very awkward place of 0.6 difference.
0.2.
Oh, 0.2, sorry. Yes, it was in between the 92.2 and the 92. And they're like, we can't possibly set a floor at 0.2. Do we set it higher where there's a bigger natural one? But, they were interested in being able to award much as they possibly could. So I think a lot of the time was spent on the conversations pertaining to that. And what I had said before about technological issues, because this was a very important part, this was where it came primarily into play, but I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, I think that they felt like this was a really strong slate of applicants, and you can see that in their scores. They gave some really helpful feedback, especially to those, bottom few scoring applications, but I think that they all were competitive, and ultimately they said, if we could, we would fund all of them, and that's what we would prefer to do, but based on feedback from the past couple of years, George and I went back and forth and said, well, around 11 is the partnership, Focus partnership funding that we've received that goes straight to the program. So we'll give them that as a baseline that, 11 is likely that we'll be able to support. We don't know yet. And that's where that 92 floor would have been. So I think, or 92.2. And that's where they said, we have to make it at least 12 that we're recommending, given that 0.2 point difference. So, yeah, I think that if, by some miracle, we receive a bunch more partnership funds, Focus partnership funds, maybe we would come back and say we would expand it because they would have recommended, all of them or as many as possible. But I think given that funding, they said the top 12 are what they would like to go forward.
The other thing that came up is one of the panelists, and then it was, I don't know how much it was Echo had just said, looking at the diversity represented or the diversity of art forms being represented, because they said, I don't know anything about this, but I'm reviewing this and explaining, that's how this happens. Like Caitlin is always working on finding the most diverse. One of the, ironically, but not in a negative sense, was the art form that they were most concerned about. Caitlin was able to share that, well, this actual person that you're mentioning served on this panel before, so, they do a great job in trying to get as a multidisciplinary background of someone represented on the panel, and then making sure they understand that it's simply you use your best judgment based on what is there, and work samples to score as best you can. So, and
Yeah.
then I think they understood completely. But again, this was this individual's first time participating in this.
And I think that underscores that I've tried for the past handful of years to pull in reviewers who have also been part of the program, either as a mentor or an apprentice, which I think has been really critical in the process, and they bring a really important perspective to it all. I think that last year made some changes based on the past couple of years panel's recommendations about urgency and how do we know that we're supporting the art forms that don't have the kind of infrastructure that exists for maybe a school of music or a school of dance where there's mentorship happening in any case, or Rose Malling where there's a state Rose Malling association. How do we know we're supporting art forms that don't have that kind of infrastructure in the state? And it's been really hard to figure out. This year it was a passion point piece for urgency, and that's why you see at least one score over 100. That was, an exceptionally strong application, and they received that in NCPs, but
There are bonus points?
bonus points, basically. It was 5 points built into the scoring last time. Now it was 5 additional points that they could have, bonus points that they could have received. But I think we'll just continue to evaluate how best to do that because it hasn't solved anything.
But in that discussion point, it was interesting because I had brought up what you might see in your area. Wisconsin's a vast state, so if that is exceptionally happening in southeast Wisconsin and someone is in northwest Wisconsin, that's 6.5, 7 hour, 8 hours away, whatever it is away. You don't understand the urgency within that community, resources available, etc. So as you're looking at some of that, it can't just be, is this a dying art form or is this an art form that is reaching an urgency level? It's understanding regionality of some of that as well.
And that's a lot of context and
It's
cultural significance to put on the applicant to sort of speak to. So I think there's so many factors at play there. And part of that is seeing how other states continue to do it. And I'll continue to monitor that. What else? Anything?
No,
I think that was
yeah.
it. Yeah, they were a good group and wish they could have supported all of this year's.
All right, if you guys want to take a look. And John Potter.
No
any
comment.
conflict?
No conflicts.
Thank you, Susan.
No
All
conflict.
right, we'll move on then.
Wallach,
All
no
right.
conflict?
Hoffman, no conflicts.
Richie, no conflicts.
Kelsey, no conflicts?
Harry, no conflicts.
Sandra, no conflict.
Oh, what?
No conflict.
Wonderful. All right. With all of that done, is someone willing to make a motion for all of the applications versus just a portion of them and, based on grant, dollar availability, these recommendations by the panel.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jane.
Second.
Thank you, LaShonda. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. As a reminder, this is why we exist. The work we just did right now was cumbersome as it can be at times. It's a delight, and especially in these times, a great responsibility to be able to disperse with funds like this. All right, we are at the, are we ready to do our Art Lift Lab presentation and tour?
We had them scheduled for 11:30, so we could go to some conversations about our board member,
Regional report, like going around? All right.
especially for those of you who have to bail.
Exactly. Yeah, all right, so if we can keep them to about 2 minutes, are you not, Matt? Thank you, that's okay.
Yep.
We still have a quorum.
You do.
What time are you leaving?
We have to vote on anything? Let's do it now.
There's
Yeah,
no-
yeah, the one thing we do have to vote on is the 50th anniversary.
Yes, grant recommendations, all right, so let's do that immediately. So if you go to page 30 of your PDF. We have, who's gonna present on this?
I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
These are those final three for the second year of those 50th anniversary grant awards that we made in those 22 counties that we hadn't served in the last 5 or so years. In year one, I think we reached, I want to say 18 of the 22. There were a handful that we just really tried to find the right organization to work with, and it didn't happen. So in year two, these are the final three of all 22 counties, which is great. It's Trempealeau, it's Pepin, and it's Jackson County. And you all had approved the first 19 of those prior to the March meeting, so this is just those last three. Yeah, it's been great. It's been fun to connect with Black River Falls Library, which I think, if I'm remembering correctly, we've worked with a handful of libraries. It's the first public library in the state, which I didn't know, and it's been great. And they're working on bringing Mary Burns for an exhibit there and to host some of her work. And Pepin County, again, fun to work with, for a project that they're doing that kind of corresponds with the Stockholm Art Fair there. And then Trempealeau County is another arts and cultural organization that was not on our radar at all prior to this. And we worked with Extension first time around, and it's good to find a nonprofit there that kind of fit and they were glad to learn of us as well. So this is kind of a festival that Arts and Culture Crafts Festival that they'll be hosting this September. So those are the three. Yeah.
And this is all pending budget as well, since these are requests, or are these the dollar amounts?
These are dollar amounts. They were
Yes.
we anticipated all of them being $2,500 awards. The Jackson County, just given budget restrictions, they could only match up to the 1850, and that's sort of what worked for the project. 1580, sorry. So their request was a little less than the 2,500, but the other two are for the kind of standard 2,500 for this program.
All right,
We spent the whole amount, we're done.
I think this 1580, and then there might have been one other award that was slightly less than 2,500. So of that 50,000, yeah, maybe $2,000. That was.
Yeah, and then it just will flow into the other grant programs. Or that kind of thing.
And we were able to hit all the counties that were targeted. That's great.
Well, and yeah, to that point too, the work that Caitlin and Karen have been doing and reaching out to those groups and bringing in the Office of Rural Prosperity to talk with them, and our friends at Wisconsin Humanities, and soon maybe the parks, and next technical assistance go around. That's been really important, so it's the grand one.
Yeah, we've done a 1 hour kind of resource session with all of the first round, and then we'll do another resource session, hour-long resource session with all 22, and the folks that they invite, and we encourage them to invite. Give them a kind of sampling of who they might consider inviting, but we leave that up to them. And like George said, I think it'd be Parks or DNR this time around, and then hopefully the regional economic development person through the Office of Rural Prosperity as well.
Can we use Vivian from the PR side and the external relations side, reach out to the legislators for these 22 communities and blow our own horn in a sense of, you know, the Wisconsin Arts Board staff and board itself thought it was critical in our 50th anniversary to make sure all 72 counties were impacted, blah, 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 blah. Your county had not received grants. We want you to know that this is the organization that in your area that was impacted by this. And if there are others, we encourage you to speak with your constituents who might benefit from this.
I think you just wrote it.
And to really play up the technical assistance and bringing people together, because that's just as valuable as the money for sure, more so.
Especially now as we're having budget conversations and some of the folks who serve on some of these committees might be in areas where they don't understand that value, so. All right, is there a motion to approve the remaining 3 of the 50th anniversary grant program year 2 applicants being Jackson County, Veteran County, and Trumbull County? Thank you, John. Thank you,
Second.
Susan. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Oh, I'm so sorry. Conflict of interest. John,
No conflicts.
your name.
No conflicts.
Richie, no conflicts.
Kelsey, no conflicts.
Hearing no conflicts.
Chandra, no conflicts.
Mitchell, no conflicts. Johnson, no conflict.
No conflicts.
Perfect.
Wow.
Thank you for catching that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. We will now take a 10-minute break until we get to the individual.
We could do that, or we can do.
Oh, I'm sorry, we can go around.
Yeah, for those who are going to have to leave, that we
Yeah.
can hear it, their report out.
And that's John right now, just remaining.
So I did this, I'm gonna lead this, I don't know if we got it this way, but
Oh, I took a picture of that poem you read.
yeah.
I loved that.
So the article goes into the impactor aunt and an uncle from Bayview, I think, at neighborhood in Milwaukee. You know, I would say a couple things. I had a meeting with Chris Gleason, DPI is our arts and creativity education consultant. He updated me that, you know, we are now going into year 3 of our collaboration. The poem is finished, the music is being composed. The music will have, the artist, does music that has a hip hop beat and, different kinds of cutting edge, in it, and it's sounding pretty cool. We also, he also gave me some data and some analytics on usage. They did a survey, the lesson plans of all the, you know, like, you got composition, you've got dance, you've got, you know, visual arts, you've got, the written word. The lesson plans are being used the most, which is interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, and then, just thinking about year 4 and in our, and actually the national, education work on the arts, in general, music, all of them, all the things that we represent. They have 4, foundational, components that they talk about all the time. And we have, in all of our arts standards, use those 4. So in music and dance and theater, in fine arts, we use all 4 of those as our unifying kind of structure for each of them. And so we have been in this collaboration we've done 2 of them already. We're entering the 3rd year, we'll do a 3rd one. And then we look he and I were talking, we'll do the fourth one if all keeps going well, and you never know. We are also under federal cuts and who knows what happens with the state. But if that keeps going, we would just spitballing, we're thinking about restarting on the first one. So just because that actually is a nice link to curriculum. So keep that going that way. But that'd be a couple more years.
That's really interesting. And as Vivian was talking before about the creative copy, the Partners for Arts Education have really been talking about careers in the arts and the need for people, parents, guidance counselors and others to understand that there's so many more careers in the arts than an actor on the stage or et cetera. And so they're working it together and through the creative copy, providing some resources down that path. But, you know, it's something that you should know that like that's the heavy conversation right now in the Partners for Arts Education.
I'd encourage you to get Chris, if you want to get Chris Gleason in there.
Oh, he's the leader of the bank.
Okay,
So
good.
yeah, no doubt.
That's great.
Oh, yes.
Before people leave.
Oh, yeah, that's another good idea. Yeah.
Ooh.
We might want to make a note of that. So, the 50th anniversary logo is there. We want you guys to sign the back of it so that we can send it to Paul as a thank you for
Oh, yeah,
having
that'd
designed
be
it.
great.
So,
Just sign, don't say anything.
yeah, just sign. Yeah, I don't think we need to go, you know. I hope you have a good summer, you know.
Whatever the year fits in the travel is what
That's
that guy
for
did
sure.
right
But dear God.
Hugs and
give them your
kisses.
phone number.
now. Is Lynn delivering it then?
I just said, dear God, don't give them your phone number. Because
Oh,
I had a number of long phone calls with him. He's a hoot, funny as heck.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Bill?
New things that are kind of happening around my area. Sam Ness, who's a musician who spent a lot of time, I think, in Madison as well, but is pretty well known on the national stage too, has relocated to Fenimore where he grew up and has organized a monthly performance, bringing different artists to come in and perform on Tuesday nights in a local venue. Everything from folk to Americana to other sort of disciplines as well. So that's kind of interesting that he's getting engaged and trying to build something there. Brenda Cardenas is going to do a residency at Shake Rake Alley in Mineral Point in 2026. And so we're looking at maybe partnering with them at our gallery to do some kind of collaborative thing. So hopefully we'll have some more to share on that later. So we'll be something at our meeting on Monday. What else? We recently had a really cool performance. We had a dancer and choreographer from Minneapolis approach us, who saw one of our exhibits and then that was about building community and broadening our reach. And so she reached out to me and said she'd be willing to come down and do a special performance that she choreographed for the exhibit. So she was down a few weeks ago. We didn't have quite as big an audience as we had hoped, but it was really fantastic. She created this 15-minute piece called Alone Together about isolation and community. And she's fairly young and really trying to make her name for herself as a dancer and choreographer. And one of the things I really loved about it was not only was it an amazing performance, there's tons of people who have never seen like a really modern dance piece before. So it's really new for a lot of folks. But also it just happened organically. You know, she happened to find us on Instagram. And the show that we had at the time, we pushed pretty hard on social media to try and get off to as many people as possible. It just came up in her feed. And so I really was just thrilled about this organic connection. Because we're also really interested in rural and urban connection, a little bit like Warm Farm is too. So it's really great to have that performance. So that's kind of the recent things that have been happening. Our gallery itself is currently starting to undergo or getting ready to undergo a rebranding campaign. So we're gonna really like look again at what our brand is and our identity, new website, new print, the whole shebang. We're engaging possibly a Madison, agency cricket design that did the Worm Farm Institute, and also a Chicago firm too, that does a lot of nonprofits like the Field Museum and some other things too. So we're really excited about that. We're, putting kind of a new fresh face on it and getting a new membership, platform set up so we can actually track our members currently, which are now on a spreadsheet that nobody looks at. So we're leaving a lot of like membership money on the table. So, yeah, we're really excited for that project this summer.
Excellent. We have 2 minutes before, LaShondra, can you do yours in 2 minutes, or? I don't want to shortchange you, so this is.
I don't
Does
have a
anybody
whole
have
lot of
brief-
updates.
Okay, great,
Only,
then.
only because I'm in the pause
That's great.
on funding, so stay tuned.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple of things then in the minute and a half. There's a really interesting concept that we have a new director, about a year old now, that she's been there at Lemon Street Gallery, and she's young and coming up with a lot of new things. And she's doing a pop-up on the 15th of this month, just featuring women artists. They don't have to be members of the gallery, but they have 14 spots going to set up on the sidewalk, and I think that's kind of interesting. Something like that's not been done in Kenosha before. And just wanted to mention the White Lilac, which is kind of a boutique performance space in Kenosha. I think it probably can only handle about 60 people, but they're doing more and more bookings of individual artists, very small groups, and I see they're building a patio out back. So I think that I'm glad to see that it's surviving and thriving in our area.
Wonderful.
And you'll get to see that area, don't forget.
Yes.
Right.
Remember.
I just want to
Right.
remind our secretary that she could, if she wanted to, add 5 pages of her notes and observations per minute, and you wouldn't know.
Who knows what I can come up with.
I was going, I recommend you put the minutes in. So quick. They'll be long. All right, does anybody need a bio break before we have someone come in and speak? So I'd say I'm gonna pause on reports.
Mhm.
Do we know, is it